Yep, new movies are great and always really exciting, especially when they look as good as those. But sometimes we just love a good classic. And if you're looking for a dish that is not only comfort food at its absolute finest, but also budget friendly, this will go a long way. Look no further than our classic mince and potato casserole. It ticks all of the flavor boxes and feeds a crowd, or in my case, a really hungry boy. I love it. Chef Chumi Chumi Chumi
Yes, I love to feed you.
I was joking earlier that this might not be the most exciting meal we've ever made, okay? But this guy packs a punch, a flavor punch. But this is about taking some good quality ingredients and making them stretch further and making it a classic by adding just a few little elements here to zhuzh it up, if you will. So what's going down in our mince and potato casserole, and what do you need me to do?
Well, I need you to slice up some potatoes for us, because instead of using lasagna sheets or stuff like that or pasta, we're going to be using our potatoes to layer up.
Nice. With the skin on?
With the skin on. And a lot of people ask me that a lot of times. And like, should I keep the skin on my potatoes?
Roughage. Fiber,
exactly,
fiber.
roughage, fiber, all the nutrients. There's a lot of nutrients in the skin.
Have these been par cooked or they're fresh? No,
as
summer.
Raw as they are. We love it as is. Now into my pan, I've got one pan going here. We're going to be frying up our mince up with some onion and some herbs. And then we're also going to be making a bechamel white sauce, cheese sauce type. It starts off as a white sauce. I add some cheese into that, and then it becomes a cheese sauce. That's literally how they differ.
Okay.
Right. So all I want to do here, I'm going to start with my onions. And like you mentioned, Graham, about packing the flavor into it. This is where you would be able to add all those veggies that you have in your fridge that are probably sitting there doing absolutely nothing.
And this is, it's all about, we were joking about like how we are constantly trying to sneak vegetables into our children. We've got kids that are of a similar kind of age.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how they go through phases. 1 week, no, don't eat that. And I love something else.
Exactly.
But if you get like a week where they're enjoying cheese, boom, throw everything in this and they're going to love it. If they're liking mince, boom,
exactly,
throw everything in there and you're going to get that nutrients in. But it's also hearty, it's going to keep them fuller for longer, and you're getting a beautiful balance of kind of the veg and the protein with the mince.
Exactly. Now, to make this kind of dish, I know a lot of people, when they're making their white sauces, they like to add their spices at the end. What I like to do is I like to cook my spices before I add all the rest of the ingredients. So when I make my white sauce, I'll go in here. We've added our CLOVER Classic fat spread first. And then into that, I'm going to add my nutmeg, because I also wanted to release a lot of its flavor. Yes, we've got some nutmeg. We've also got some pepper in here. You want to make sure that those flavors release, because we're layering up on the flavor. And if you want to add more a little later, you're more than welcome to.
I love that. Nutmeg's going to take this to a whole different flavor profile. I love it. So the CLOVER Classic fat spread is an ideal spread. Yes, we know that for every day, but with a touch of CLOVER cream that elevates it and certainly lends itself to something like this, where we needed to add a creamier element and edge. You can spread, you can bake, you can cook, you can use it any way your family needs it and loves it. And I guarantee you, your family are going to love the taste of CLOVER Classic fat spread on any occasion. And it certainly adds a beautiful, buttery, creamy texture to what we're making here this morning. So what's gone into the
Right now, I'm starting the sauce here, and all I've done is, remember, I cooked down our spices, I cooked down our nutmeg, our pepper, and I've added the flour now. And then into this, I'm going to go with my milk. Now, this is where you start making, cooking down your sauce. You need to make sure you cook the flour out, otherwise it's going to have that floury flavor, and you don't want that. So you let it cook down. Once it's done doing that, this is where as well, if you wanted to make it a bit of a garlicky sauce, this is where you'd add your garlic as well before you add the liquid, because you also want it to cook down and release some of its flavor. And most people, when they make this sauce, they like to just chuck in all the milk at once. When you do that, you risk having those lumps in there. I say add it in a little at a time. Make sure you work it in first, and then once you've done that, add the milk as you go. This also helps with making sure that your sauce doesn't get too runny, because with this kind of recipe, we want to make sure that our sauce is nice and thick. Well, since you've done so well, maybe you can then start layering up.
Okay, so we're going to have a layer of potato at the base.
Correct. One layer at the base, and then we start adding all the other ingredients here, which is going to be my mince that I'm going to add, as well as our sauce. Let me just...
I went basically as thick as my chubby fingers would allow me. I suppose it's going to cook a lot more easily the thinner you do it. So you don't want them to be too thick and chunky.
No, I would say thicker is better.
Really?
Because what happens is it also absorbs all the moisture should there be too much liquid released from the dish, but it also keeps it intact because you don't want it falling apart when it comes out.
It's not a stew or a soup. We want it to have that, a bit of consistency.
Yeah,
okay,
you want
I love
structure in it. So let your potatoes be a little on the thicker side,
cool.
and then it helps keep it together so that when you slice into it, then you're able to see all those layers.
So I'm just trying to stare at your sauce here. That's thickening up beautifully.
Thickening up beautifully. The mince is also cooking down. Once it's cooked, we're going to then start layering it up. Add our potatoes, our mince, the sauce. Potatoes, mince, sauce. On the very top, then we add our cheese, get that beautiful golden brown.
And then pop it into the oven. How does this need to cook? How long? How do we know it's ready? Because you've obviously par-cooked the mince already.
I would say give it about 35 to 40 minutes because you want to make sure that it's fully cooked. But that's why we also started on the stove as well to make sure that it's par-cooked, and then we're going to start layering it up.
And let those flavours infuse.
Correct.
This is a simple, easy way to take some staples in your own fridge, in your own kitchen, in your own pantry, and stretch them out a little bit further and turn them into a modern-day classic. Thanks to our Clover Classic Fat Spread. This really does elevate the entire recipe. And if you want to find it, you can find it on expressoshow.com.
So, we've had classic fashion from Timby, classic cars, thanks Chad, and we've seen classic hairstyles. And you, Michael? Classic!
A classic range from Clover. Timeless taste.
Made with love by Clover.